This tomato grows directly from the flower. The flower starts to fade.
And the base begins to swell into a tomato. The fruit takes shape, still small, but growing fast.
Every tomato starts in this stage. Follow to watch them grow.
All right, good day everyone. Welcome again to biology class. And today's topic is titled Reproductive System in Plants. And the objective for this lesson is that at the end of this lesson, you should be able to define flower and mention types of flower, draw a structure of a typical flower, and mention the function of their parts. Number 3, mention the floral parts of a flower. Number 4, mention the types of ovary in flowering plants. And number 5, mention the type of placentation in flowering plants. Alright, let's go to definition of a flower. Now, a flower is a reproductive part or structure of a flowering plant. And plants can exhibit both sexual and asexual reproduction. A flowering plant undergoes sexual reproduction. Now, most plants, they are bisexual, which means they contain both male and female sex organ, while some are unisexual, as you can see from the diagram. So the major reproductive system of a plant is the flower. So the flower is the reproductive system of any plant. Let's look at parts of the flower. Now the flower is divided into two parts. You have the pistil and the stamen. Now in the pistil, it contains the stigma, as you can see, the style, and the ovary, while the stamen contains the anther and the filament. Then we also have the petals, we have the oval, we have the sepal, we have the receptacle, and we have the pedicel. So these are the parts of flower. Now let's look at types of flower. We have so many types of flower. We have the inflorescence flower. Now these are groups of flower these are flowers that group themselves to a common stake. As in they group themselves to a common stake, e.g. Pride of Barbados. Then we have solitary flowers. These are flowers that are attached singly either to the leaf axil or to the tip of the branch. E.g. we have the hibiscus or the purple flower. So the inflorescence, they are a group of flowers that attach themselves to a common stake, while the solitary attach themselves singly either to the leaf axil or to the tip of the branch. Number 3, we have the perfect flower. Now it's a flower that has both the carpel and the stamens in it. I mean, it's complete. It has both the carpel and the stamen in it. E.g. we have the Pride of Barbados. Then we have the imperfect flower. Now it's a flower the carpel and the stamen are naturally missing. They don't have the carpels and the stamen. E.g. we have the maize flower. So the carpel and stamen are parts of the flower which we have seen from the previous page. So these are the imperfect and perfect flower. So that also among the types of flower that we have. Number 6, we have what we call complete flower. Now this is a type of flower that naturally has all the 4 floral parts. E.g. we have the hibiscus flower, or we have the Pride of Barbados. Then we have the incomplete flower. Now this is a type of flower that lacks one or more floral parts, e.g. the maize flower and the purple flower. Now technically the maize flower does not have the carpel and the stamen, so it's lacking some of the flower parts. It's not a complete flower as a complete flower is supposed to be. Number 8, we have the regular flower. The regular flower has all the members of a whole on it. That's the whole represent the petals, and they are identical in shape and size. An irregular flower can be cut vertically into 2 similar halves through any one of the several vertical places, as we will see in the diagram. An irregular flower can be described as what? Actinomorphic flower. Actinomorphic flower. E.g. is the hibiscus flower. So call it what? Actinomorphic flower, which is a regular flower. Then the opposite of it is the irregular flower. It's a flower in which members of the petals or the whole are not similar. The petals are not similar, and you cannot cut it into similar halves through. No, it can be cut vertically into similar halves through only one plane. You can cut it vertically into similar halves through only one plane, and it's called zygomorphic flower. The zygomorphic flower, that's for the irregular flower. The next we have the auxiliary flower. These are flowers that are born on the axil of the leaves. Then we have the terminal flower. These are the flowers that are born at the end of the stem or the branches. Now back to the previous page, that is a picture of the actinomorphic flower. I can cut it through any of the plane that you can see there. Then zygomorphic is just through only one plane. Then if you can see the petals of the actinomorphic, they are all the same. The zygomorphic, they're not actually the same. Then we have the bisexual flower. Now what are bisexual flowers? These are flowers that have both the carpel and the stamen. They are called the hermaphrodites. Hermaphrodites, which means they have both the male and the female sex organ presently on the plant, on the flower. E.g., we have the Barbados and the hibiscus flower. Some will say they are hermaphrodites. All right, so we'll continue from number 12. So we have the unisexual flower, which is the opposite of the bisexual flower. Now, the unisexual flower is a type of flower that has either stamen or carpel as its sexual path. It has either stamen or carpel as its sexual part. And the flower that has only carpel is called the pistillate. And the carpel represents the female reproductive organ of the plant, of the flower. So a flower that has only the female reproductive organ, which is the carpel, is called pistillate. While the flower that has only the stamen represents the male reproductive organ of the flower, is called the staminate. So the pistil is for a flower that has only the female reproductive organ, while the stamen is for a flower that has only the male reproductive organ, which is called staminate. Examples of pistillate and staminate are pawpaw and maize, pawpaw flower and maize flower. So this is the pawpaw flower, this is the pawpaw flower, and this is the maize flower. All right, let's move on to the next slide. At 13, we have the monoecious flower. We have the monoecious flower. Now, this is a type of flower in which the male and the female parts of the flower are located on the same plant. The male and the female parts of the flower are located on the same plant. On the same plant. An example, we have the oil palm, then we have the maize. Now let's look at dioecious flower. This is number 14. This is the type of flower in which the male and the female parts of the flower are located on different plants. If you look at the previous one, we have the monoecious flower. This is a flower that has both the male and the female parts of the flower that is located on the same plant. So the female flower parts can be located on one part of the plant, and the male parts of the flower can be located on the same plant. But for this one, the male and the female parts are located on different plants. All right. So we have the pawpaw flower. Let's look at the parts of the flower. This image you are seeing is a part of the flower, and the flower is majorly divided into two parts. We have the flower stick and we have the floral parts. So let's look at most of the parts we have here. So you can see this one. This is the petal. All right, this is the petal. Then we have the carpel. The carpel is the female reproductive organ, and the carpel is made up of the stigma, the style. We have the pollen tube, the ovary, and the ovule. These are what makes the female reproductive organ of the flower, and they are all grouped as as a carpel. All right, and the stamen, which is the male reproductive organ of the flower, we have the anther, which is kind of pollen grain. and we have the filament. All right, so the filament is what is carrying the anther. Inside the anther, as we drive along, contains the pollen grain, which you will see in some of the slides that we are going through. So the anther and the filament makes up the stamen, and the stamen represent the male reproductive organ of the what, of the flower, or the main reproductive part of the flower. Then the other parts that are not involved in reproduction are the petal. All right, the petal. We have the receptacle. All right, we have the stem. Then we have the sepal. And the sepal, we're going to look at all the function of all this as we move on in the slide. So this is the major part of the flower. Let's look at a real life flower. Now you can see this real life flower. This is the stamen. As you can see, this is the stamen. Oh, sorry, this is the style rather. This is the stigma. We have the petal, which is the flower part, which the flower part which we perceive as perfume. We have this is the filament. We have the anther, and the anther. This anther here we have. This is where you have the pollen grain. This is the main reproductive part of the flower. This is the ovary of the flower. All right, this is the ovary of the flower. This is the style that leads down to the ovary. Then we have the sepal, which is protecting the what? The ovary. So these are the parts of the flower that we've looked at. So let's look at the next slide. Now let's look at the essential parts of a flower. What are the essential parts of a flower? What are the important parts of the flower? I've said that earlier before. The important part of the flower is the carpel and the stamen. The carpel and the stamen. They are regarded as the what? The essential parts of the flower, because they produce garments required for fertilization and formation of what? Seeds and fruits. So the carpel is for the female reproductive part of the flower. The stamen is the male reproductive part of the flower. So this moving picture you are seeing here consists of the carpel and the stamen. So this is a particular one here. This is the anther, and these things that are dropping down are the pollen grains. All right, these are the pollen grains that are being released. Now this is the style. This is the style, and you have the style, and this pollen grains will create a tube down to the oval. All right, this is the ovary, and this inside is the oval, which will now change into what? Fruits and seed. So the essential part of the flower is the carpel and the stamen. Don't forget, the carpel is the female reproductive part of the flower. The stamen is the male reproductive part of the flower. Let's move on to the non-essential parts of the flower, as in the part that are not involved in reproduction or production of or formation of seed and fruits. Now the sepals and the petals are regarded as the non-essential part of a flower. Why? Because they do not produce garments required for fertilization and formation of seeds and fruits. That's just the main reason why they don't involve in the production of garments which is required for fertilization and formation of seeds and fruits. So as you can see, this is the sepal right here, and this is the petal you can see. So all these are the petals, which are some of them are very attractive. They used to attract insects close to the flower, and the sepal just holds the petals together. Let's move on, and let's look at parts of the flower and their functions. The parts of the flower and their function. First, we have the pedicel, and the pedicel function is that it attaches the flower to the stem of the plant. So the part that attaches the flower to the stem of the plant, where you pluck the flower from, that part that attaches the flower to the stem is known as what? The pedicel. Then we have the receptacle, number 2. It carries and holds together the floral parts of the flower. Now the floral parts of the flower are the sepals and the petals. So they hold it together, just like a funnel that holds all those petals together. It's known as the receptacle. Then we have the sepal. Sepal encloses and protects other flower parts of the flower. It encloses and protects other flower parts of the flower. We have the petal. And the petal attracts insects for pollination. They are very, very attractive. Some are very red, some are very green. Is the colorful part of that flower. That color part of that flower that you are seeing is referred to as the what? The petals. And they attract insects for pollination. I will discuss about pollination in the next class. The stamen. Now the stamen is the what? The reproductive organ of a flower. Is a male reproductive organ of a flower. Then we have the filament. The filament carries the anther, which we have seen in the previous slide. Now, what the anther contains polygrain, which is number 7, and the polygrains refers to the male garments of the flower. The male garments of the flower, just where we have the sperm for the male and the egg for the female. For the plant is the polygrain that represents the male garment of the flower. The carpel, number 8. The carpel, this is the female reproductive organ of a flower. It is the female reproductive organ of a flower. Number 9, we have the ovary. Now, inside the ovary contains what we call ovule. It contains what we call ovule. Now, the ovary, after fertilization, the ovary develops into fruit. Take note, the ovary is outside and it's housing the ovule. Now, the ovary, after the plant has gone through pollination and is being fertilized, the ovary develops into fruit, while the ovule, which contains a female garment, develops into seed after fertilization. Take note, the ovary develops into fruit, while the ovule, which contains the female garment, develops into seed after fertilization. So if you look at this, the anther contains the pollen grain, while the ovule contains the pollen grain. And take note, okay, the anther contains the pollen grain, which is the male garment, while ovule the ovule contains the female garment, which develops into seed. So the seed we eat in fruits, they are developed from the ovule, while the fruits, the flesh of the fruit we eat, they are developed from the what? Ovary after fertilization, which means the whole flower part turns into fruit and seed when it is being fertilized. So our fruit and seed that we eat comes from the development of what? Of flowers that can be what? Fertilized. Okay, let's look at the next one. We have the style. Now the style connects the stigma to the ovary. Now it is a passage for pollen grains to reach the tube during fertilization, which I showed you during that moving picture. So the style is all the way stretching down into the what? Into the ovary. So it connects the pollen grain to the ovule during what? Fertilization. Then stigma. The stigma receives the pollen grain during pollination. So when we do pollination, we're going to understand how plants fertilize and turn into, how flower become fertilized and turns into fruits during pollination, which is going to be in our next class. The next one we're going to look at is types of ovary. Types of ovary. Now we have superior ovary, we have inferior ovary, we have half inferior ovary. Now, what's a superior ovary? Now, a superior ovary is an ovary that is above other floral parts of the flower. It is a ovary that is above all other parts of the floral parts in a flower, and they are called, if a flower has a superior ovary, it's called the hypogynous flower. The flower whose ovaries are above its floral parts is called what? Hypogynous flower. E.g., we have the hibiscus flower. Next, we have the inferior ovary. Now, the inferior ovary, this is ovary that is below the other floral parts of a flower. So it's below the floral parts of a flower. When we say floral parts, it means the petals, the sepals, and others. So the ovary is below such parts of the flower, and they are referred to as what? Epigynous flower. Epigynous flower. They are flowers whose ovary is below the floral part of the flower, or you call them inferior ovary. E.g., is the sunflower. Then we have the half inferior flower. We have the half inferior flower. And what's the half inferior flower? Now, the half inferior flower is when the ovary is at the same level with other floral parts of a flower. When the ovary is at the same level with other floral parts, and they are called what? Perigynous Perigynous ovary. Perigynous ovary. An example we have there is the rose flower. The rose flower. So we call them perigynous ovary. So the superior is above the floral part, inferior is below the floral part, half inferior is at the same level with the what floral part. Take note of that. Now this diagram is going to show us. Now this is an epigynous. It's a superior ovary. You can see the ovary. This is the ovary. Let me change the color of my pen. Okay. Let me take this one out. So we are seeing the superior ovary. Superior means something that is above. Above. So look at the ovaries above the floral parts. These are the floral parts you are seeing here. So it's above the floral parts. The flower parts I told you the sepals and the carpels and others. The sepals and the petals. So it's above the flower parts. We call it what? Epigynous ovary. Then we have the half inferior ovary. Now the half inferior ovary is at the same level of the floral parts. As you can see, it is at the same level of the floral parts. This is the ovary right here. At the same level of the flower parts. Then we have the inferior. Inferior means it's going in. You can see it is just below the floral parts. As you can see, the floral part is below the floral parts. This one at the same level, this one is above. At the same level, this one is below. So we call it what? Epigynous ovary. All right. So these are the types of ovary that we have. So let's move on to the next part. Let's talk about placentation. Placentation. What is placentation? This is the arrangement of ovules within the ovary of a flower. It is the arrangement of what? Ovules within the ovary of a flower. Take note, the ovary houses the ovule. And I told you in the previous slide that the ovule develops to seed when it is being fertilized, while the ovary develop into fruits after fertilization. Now the ovules are attached to the ovary by fleshy structure called placenta through short sticks called funicles. So the ovary is attached to the ovule is attached to the ovary through a fleshy structure called what? Placenta, through short sticks called what? Funicles. Funicles. And you can see some fruits that are here. You see some fruit that are, these are the ovules you are seeing. The ovules, that center part, when you peel an orange. So technically, we're going to do some experiments. We're going to cut some fruits and see some of the ovary inside. These are the ovule we are seeing. These are the ovules we are seeing. These are the ovules we are seeing. Now the ovule, I told you, develops into seed. Why these parts that you eat, this edible part, is called the ovary. All right. So let's look at the types of placentation that we have. The first one we have is the marginal placentation. We have the axile placentation. We have the parietal placentation. We have the free central placentation. Then we have the basal placentation. So we're going to look at them one after the other and look at some examples that relates to them. So on this slide, let's look at the marginal placentation. Now for the marginal placentation, the ovules are arranged at the margin of the ovaries. An example, we have the beans, we have the flamboyant flowers. Look at the ovaries, the ovule here. This is the ovule around here. So like I told you earlier before, that the ovary will form the fruits, while the ovule will form the what? The seed. And look at the way the seeds are being arranged. They are arranged at the edge of the ovary. So this is example of the marginal placentation. So the seed are always arranged at the edge. For example, if you open up a beans pod or a cowpea pod, you see the seed arranged at the edge, at the margin of the ovary. So we refer to it as what? The marginal or the marginal placentation. So the ovaries are arranged at the margin of the what? Ovaries. Let's look at the next type of presentation. Now we have the axile. Now the axile presentation, the carpel meets at the center to form the placenta for attachment of the what of the ovules. So if you look at this particular example here, e.g. we have the tomato, we have the what the pepper. Now look at the axis presentation. Now if you look at the placenta, this is, or let me change my pen, let me use a different color of pen. Now look at this particular part here that I'm circling. Now this is the ovule. They are all gathering at the center of the what of the ovary, and there's a kind of attachment which we are seeing. There's a kind of attachment which you are seeing. So the ovules are attached to this placenta through this structure you are seeing here, and these are the ovules. You can see the seeds here. So example is your tomato, your fresh pepper, your green pepper, and all that. Look at the tomato too. You can see the seeds that are arranged in the center. So call this one your axis presentation, where the carpel meets at the center to form the placenta. Let's look at the next presentation we have. Now we have the basal presentation. We have the basal presentation, and the ovules are attached to the base of the ovule, or the ovules are attached to the base of the what ovary. Sorry. Now the ovules are attached to the base of the what ovary. This is ovary, not ovule. This is ovary. OVARY. Now most of the seeds are found in the center. We just have one seed attached to the center. For example, we have the sunflower. Now these things you are seeing here, they are all seed, all attached to the center of it. Same thing with the what with the mango. This is an example of a what of a basal placentation. So we have the sunflower, then we have the what the mango. Let's look at the next one. In this particular one, we have the parental placentation. Now the ovules are arranged to the side of the ovary or within a single chamber or cavity. The ovules, which is the seed, take note, the ovules are the seed, the ovary is the fruit himself. Now the ovules, which are the seed, which are developed seed, they are arranged in a single chamber or cavity. Cavity simply means like a hole. For example, if you look at the pawpaw, when you cut a pawpaw, the seed are arranged at the center of the pawpaw in a hole inside the pawpaw. Same thing with your cucumber. When you cut the cucumber, if you look at the seed, they are arranged at the center of the fruit. So the ovules are arranged at the center of the fruit, just like we are seeing from this diagram. So this is referred to as the what? The parental placentation. And the last one we have here is the free central placentation. And in this particular one, the ovules are borne on the knob, projecting from the base of the ovary. Now this is a primrose fruit, more or less looking like a tomato or garden egg. Now these ovaries, they are borne on the knob and they're projecting from the what on the base. So these ovaries are coming down from the bottom all the way up to the surface. So here is the what is the ovules, and to take note, the ovules are the seed which you are seeing right there. Let me take down heart. So the ovules are the seed which you are seeing right there. So these are the ovaries you are seeing here. These are the ovaries you are seeing here, right here. They all project as if they are on the knob, and this is how they are formed. So these are the five major plantation that we have in plants. So we have, just a recap, we have the axile, we have the free central, we have the parental, we have the basal, we have the axile, and we have the marginal plantation. So these are the five major plantation that we have in plants. All right. Now to the end of this class. The next one we have is pollination in plants, and I want us to go through these assignments. Number one, it said describe the main reproductive parts of the flying parts plants. Number two, explain different types of ovary. Number three, with a well labeled diagram, describe the structure makeup of a flower. So we're going to draw a flower. We will search it and look for the sketch of the pencil drawn flower from Google and be able to draw it off by heart. With an example, each statement, use an example each. State and explain types of what? Ovary. Number 5, list 5 or list 4 flower parts of the flower and their functions. Number 6, classify flower based on their what? Sexes. If you remember, we have the asexual, we have the bisexual. And what is plantation? Describe 5 types of plantation and give one example each for each of the cases. So plants that have that particular presentation. So we're going to see in a physical class. And please get ready. We're going to get some fruits. We'll cut them and we're going to observe it. And please let's try and get some flowers. If you can get the hibiscus flower, the rose flower. So let's get those flower and study them in the lab. So God bless you. Have a nice day. I remember Mr. Francis. Bye bye.